Welcome to Intuitive Astrology with Molly McCord. Thank you so much for joining me today as we're going to take a look at the energetics of Uranus stationing direct. This occurs on January 27th at 2:35 a.m. So keep in mind it could happen on January 26th for you, depending on your time zone. And Uranus will station direct at 19 degrees and 5 minutes of Taurus. And there is actually a lot of significance with this particular station. So we are going to talk about that in today's podcast episode. And what you can do to follow along and to understand how this is working with you specifically is to identify where you have 19 degrees of Taurus in your chart. This is your natal chart. And keep in mind, you do not need to have a planet or point here. Rather, you're identifying the degree that it's located in your chart, specifically by house. So you might have 19 degrees of Taurus in your 6th house, in your 11th house, in your 1st house. And this is what you want to find because this is where Uranus in Taurus has been working with you to create deep-seated changes where perhaps at first you had big resistance. And that's because Taurus is a fixed earth sign that wants reliability and stability. Taurus is how we create and solidify our life at a foundational level. It's where we seek out what we need to feel steady, stable, and strong. And this includes not only what we call into our physical world to create our home, our safe environment, how we go about our day, the routines we need in place that perpetuate our lifestyle, our values, our sense of security in the world. But Taurus is also about how we express what we find to be beautiful and peaceful, where we want harmony and joy. Taurus is where we want to be able to comfort ourselves, to find comfort amongst the chaos of the world, to go into a place that we feel is always waiting for us because it matches our self-value, our self-worth. So much of the Taurus journey is in looking at, is this true for me? Is this something I really want in my life? Or is this something I thought meant one thing and I've realized it doesn't really have that much significance to me anymore? This is where we have an understanding of what we need to live a good, solid, quality life. And of course, that changes throughout our lives. That changes as we get older. It changes when we move. It changes when our status in life shifts. So the Taurus energy is where we come back to understanding this is what I want and need, that I will continue to fortify within myself, and it gives me a stronger core. It reflects the core of who I am and connects to the core of who I am. And so in Taurus, not only is it about our basic survival needs, which would be food, water, clothing, shelter, but it also is about what kind of life is suitable for me. What is important to me to experience regularly that grounds my energy and it gives me a sense of consistency and strength. Taurus relates to not only our stability and our desire to create a fulfilling life, but it reflects to where we are continuing to grow our own self-value, self-worth, and connect that frequency to physical world manifestations. So Taurus is where we really get an understanding of our manifesting powers in the physical realm, what we create, what we call in, what we put energy towards, how that can build in beautiful ways and develop through the years. Taurus is determined, steadfast, dedicated. It will stay the course. This is the energy that will get the job done and will stay in alignment with that goal, even if it's only for oneself. Meaning this is really about your personal energy, what you consider as meaningful and important to you in your life. Taurus is also our first experience with finances, with money, with what we bring in, how we save money, how we invest in ourselves, but also how we spend money and what goes out that reflects what we value and what we enjoy. So with the Taurus energy, we're looking at what does it mean to live a life that is truly reflective of my energy, of my values, and what I want to experience. And as Uranus has been moving through this sign, it's been shaking all that up. And Uranus is about not only what we would consider disruption or chaos or liberation, but it wants you to shake off anything that isn't authentically you. And in Taurus, there could be things that you just accepted. You just realize this is what works for me. I've always done it this way. This is something that I thought would continue forever. And then here comes Uranus and really jostles things up, tears it up, shreds it up, removes it. There's been so much inconsistency in the Taurus energies lately, and that's very difficult for Taurus because it prefers the opposite. It prefers the comfort zone. It doesn't want overwhelming change or the ongoing roller coaster ride. But with Uranus here, it's really a breaking free, and it's breaking free so that you can be more conscious and intentional around what you do want to create next, what you do want to call into a space or into your life. So Uranus in Taurus has been quite unstable and has also required us to look at what we have considered vital, and do we still think so? And this could be as simple as understanding where your money goes out every month to subscription services or to various things that you're realizing, I don't even use all this stuff. I don't want all this. And then you cancel those subscriptions. It could be a broader understanding of your finances and what you want to change or switch up. And of course, this can come about through unexpected job loss or changes in a salary or anything that really relates to your income, because Taurus is the money that you earn, the money that you pull in. And with Uranus here, it breaks it out of traditional means. This also has been the energy of the side hustle, of side gigs, of doing other things to either make more money or pay the bills or whatever you need to do to get that money to come in. And Uranus moves quickly. Uranus tends to accelerate and get things up to a higher speed. And so this part of your chart, this part of your life could even have felt quite overwhelming. Like there's just been a lot going on. You don't know how to organize it or compartmentalize it. You're looking at how to handle it and really looking for new solutions. Now, this transit typically only happens once in a lifetime, meaning Uranus will move through Taurus every 84 years. So you're looking at things that are coming up now that are meant to evolve and change, often quite rapidly and suddenly. And that can, on the one hand, be quite clear, quite invigorating, depending on your chart, or it could be quite overwhelming and too much and scary. So the Uranus energy is one of breakthroughs, rapid change, turning something over on its head and looking at, okay, what do I do next? Now, Uranus, the planet, is known for being quite wonky, and that's because it moves in a very unpredictable manner. We often see it as sideways, as the energy that stands out amongst other planets because Uranus is doing its own thing. It's in its own jive. It's moving in its own groove. And so we have a planet here that wants us to embrace those archetypal energies within us, to own our genuine frequency, to own more of who we really are without thinking we have to fit into the status quo or we have to follow a traditional path. Wherever you have this transiting Uranus in Taurus in your chart is where you are being pushed to break out of anything that has held you back, anything that is old programming. Perhaps it's too traditional, it's too outdated. Maybe it's something you never even challenged or looked at, and now it's coming up front and center for you to carefully evaluate. And typically Taurus wants to observe, wants to go slow, wants to take your own time so that it doesn't feel rushed. But Uranus doesn't allow that. Uranus stirs up the pot, and that's where the energies can feel quite contradictory because you'd prefer more time to sit with something, but we need the answer in 1 hour. And Uranus is waiting, and Uranus is going to keep moving forward, ready or not. So wherever this Uranus energy is in your chart is where you've been undergoing massive life changes. And there's a bigger story that's unfolding here that I also wanted to dig into. Now, this Uranus is stationing direct at 19 degrees and 5 minutes of Taurus. But let's go back to 2022, where Uranus traveled to 18 degrees, 55 minutes, so only 10 minutes apart from where it is stationing direct now. And Uranus hung out here at nearly 19 degrees back in the middle of 2022, July, August, September, October 2022. That's when something came up that was ignited, activated, animated, something that Uranus in Taurus perhaps blew up, or there was a breakthrough. And what's significant is that we also had this Uranus in Taurus conjunct the North Node in July 2022, around the same degree point. So whatever is coming up for you at 19 degrees of Taurus, it actually started back in July 2022. And this could be a part of your life where you haven't felt peace, you haven't felt serenity, you haven't felt closure, you haven't felt like the energy has fully cleared out. Because Uranus is back here where it was starting in July 2022, and it was conjunct the North Node. When Uranus was conjunct the North Node at 1918 degrees, there was something opening up that was a trajectory change, that was a shift, a new way to move ahead, something that was evident, something that the universe wanted to make clear to you. Uranus conjunct the North Node was a very significant transit in 2022. And I realize it can take a minute to even think back. And what was going on then? The middle of 2022. Again, it was July when it was the strongest, and then August, September, October is also when this energy was active. And so that opened up a story, a potential, and it was something perhaps wildly different that was even crazy, absurd. How in the world would that happen? How could this come together? And that's part of the dichotomy as well with Uranus and Taurus, because Taurus is realistic. What's practical here? How does this work? How can this be built? How can this be formed? Taurus will ask that. Taurus asks, how much will this cost me? How much do I have to pay out or pay in? Am I going to receive anything in return? What is the ROI for me? So that was a big part of this energy opening up. And we talked a lot about Uranus conjunct the North Node back in 2022. So yes, a year and a half ago. A year and a half, this energy has been active. And again, it's something that you haven't been able to shake off, because now Uranus is back here, jostling it up again. And what this energy really wants you to do is connect to a higher frequency of self-worth and self-value. Now, we say those words a lot, right? You hear those terms a lot: self-worth, self-love, self-value, blah, blah, blah. What does it mean? Well, part of that is looking at where you haven't fully loved and accepted who you are, what you offer, your gifts, how you are formed to be a unique energy in the world, understanding that there is innate worthiness simply in existing in these physical bodies, especially at this time on the planet. It's understanding more about, especially through a practical lens, what you bring to the table. So if you were to apply this to a job or an occupation, it's looking at, okay, I bring these skill sets to the table. I'm really good at this. I really enjoy this. And not only am I good at it, but I'm worthy of receiving this energy in return. And that's typically our salary or the money we make. It's like, okay, I bring this to the table, and then this is what I receive through my salary that provides my foundational life, where I pay my bills, create my lifestyle, live in my world. What Uranus in Taurus wants you to do is to think bigger, expand beyond what you had assumed or what you thought was possible. Uranus is located after Saturn. Saturn being the planet of traditions, what is accepted, what is expected, what is essential, what is responsible, what matters. Saturn is where we make our commitments. It's where we understand this is what I have to do. This is what I have to take care of. But the energy beyond Saturn, as it moves into Uranus, shakes all that up, and you start to ask bigger questions. Is this important? Is this a commitment I want to make? Is this essential? And so you step outside of traditional programming and you're pushed into more of your own individual frequency. And that's what Uranus wants you to do. It wants you to push into more of your own individual self-worth frequency, so that instead of your self-worth, what you value, who you are, any of those energies being determined by something in society, in culture, in a hierarchy, Uranus is like, no, throw all that out. You decide. You are the determiner of what this means to you, and you get to put new value on who you are and what you bring forward, not only to a job, as I gave as an example, but into the collective frequencies, into the collective energy field. And you get to elevate that. And that is something that this Uranus and Taurus wants us to claim, is our sovereignty, is our ability to be different, to own who we are at an individual level in a new way, from a new perspective. Turn something over on its head, see it from a new angle and from a new light. So we take all these energies and we look at how Uranus and Taurus has been requiring you to make some changes that maybe you've been resisting, which is a Taurus response, because Taurus is stubborn and is resistant to change unless it's actively chosen, unless there's been a process, usually a slow process, where you've arrived at a logical understanding or a rational approach. And so with these energies bringing in turbulence, inconsistency, it could feel like there's things you haven't been able to move through. You haven't been able to shake it off. You've probably even thought, why is this still coming up in my world? Why is this still coming up in my life? What am I supposed to do with this? Almost like as soon as you feel more grounded and clear, it gets shaken up again, similar to a snow globe or to something that gets put back into the blender. Well, as Uranus stations direct, there's something here that you're now seeing with new eyes. And it could be something, again, you've pushed away. It's been too much. It's been really uncomfortable. It's been overwhelming. Perhaps it's been something that has heavily activated your nervous system, your anxiety, almost the sense of, am I making the right choice? Am I going to make a wrong choice? Is this the path? Is this not the path? That's part of this energy that gets stirred up and feels so unsettled, is that it is not allowing us to rest. And I feel like this Uranus stationing direct really wants you to revisit something or be aware of a part of yourself that wants to evolve, that wants to grow with your sovereignty, wants to be more of who you really are. And that alone could be your process. You could see where you've been challenged, where it's been hard to break out of the mold. You've wanted to do something on your own terms, in your own way. Uranus is the independent aspect of ourselves. It's the entrepreneur. It's where we seek freedom. It's where we don't want to be held captive. And there could be something that you've also felt a deep responsibility for, especially a financial responsibility with the Taurus energies, where you can't leave something high and dry, or you want to make the job change, but it just hasn't really been evident yet what to do. Or maybe there have been a lot of changes in this part of your life, and now you're just ready for it to be calm, secure, a known entity. And you're looking at, when is this roller coaster going to end? And so the planets or points you have in Taurus have been experiencing this. It's been a big part of your reality. And this could have brought about wonderful breakthroughs and really exciting opportunities and new access to resources. There could be things that spiked up for you that were really novel and unusual. And all of this has been with a universal intention to show you more of who you are, show you more of how you're different, how you're here to be empowered in your light, in your gifts, how you're here to own more of what you're capable of and to love these parts of yourself, perhaps that you've been meeting for the very first time. whatever has been coming up for you, maybe you've even been shocked and delightfully surprised at what has transpired, as well as what you've been able to handle, and how that alone has demonstrated more of your core strength. So as Uranus stations direct here at 19 degrees, Uranus is not returning to this part of your chart for another 84 years. And so there's something here that you are perhaps understanding, letting go of, breaking free from, and allowing yourself to move forward that started back in the middle of 2022. Uranus will now travel ahead and get to 27 degrees of Taurus, so fully entering and staying in the third decan of Taurus for the rest of his time through the second sign of the zodiac. So we are really seeing something that has been pivotal in our journey, something that's opened you up to more of even your manifestation possibilities, your joy, your values, how you want to live your life, and what you don't need anymore that you thought you did. And it's very possible that this all brought up fear around the changes, around the uncertainty. This could have brought up things that you wanted to block out or resist because it was too much. You didn't know how to work with it, how to understand it. And the universe wouldn't let it go, right? The universe wouldn't allow it to just be because there's something you had to see, something that came forward, something front and center that you had to learn or had to know about yourself and see it in a way that you couldn't unsee it. And that's also how the energies work in the earth signs. So Uranus moves forward, and we also have Jupiter traveling behind Uranus in Taurus. April is a big month for these Taurus energies, as we're going to have Jupiter reaching 19 degrees of Taurus April 10th through the 13th. And then we will have the Jupiter-Uranus conjunction at 21 and 22 degrees of Taurus throughout the second half of April. It's exact April 17th to the 27th, but because these are slow-moving planets, the energy builds up beforehand. So we're approaching some kind of pivotal breakthrough here, where Jupiter's influence on Uranus is going to amplify the change. It's going to bring up something that even if you've been suppressing or repressing, it's going to be quite big. There's going to be a huge light shown on something. And you could already be sensing this and feeling this. This also exaggerates the change, the growth, what is needed to be different. This is going to show us more of what's possible. Now, Jupiter is known for having a positive influence, and that's because Jupiter wants us to learn and grow through joy, wants us to see something in an abundant light. So Jupiter comes through, amplifies and exaggerates, which can also be overwhelming. Jupiter can absolutely be overwhelming, and this could be bigger, shocking changes. This could be feeling like it's right on time to do something that you've been sitting with, pondering, resisting, or open to. And the Jupiter conjunct Uranus energy is a significant energy shift. Like I'm seeing it as a frequency change that speeds something up and moves it forward. It propels it forward. There is a leapfrog effect. And this can, of course, be very beneficial. And it also can be a showcase of what hasn't been working. It's almost like it can go in either direction. It can be a huge breakdown. It can be a huge breakthrough. Jupiter is where we're learning, we're gathering wisdom. We go through life experiences to understand energetics, how things work, what is useful, what is good for me. What is something that lifts me up and expands my energy? Where do I need support and resources in Taurus? Where do I need to create through peace and feel the beautiful harmony that is always alive in the natural symphony of universal forces? That's what Taurus wants. It wants to feel that there are wonderful things coming together and developing, to see the beauty in the world, to experience the beauty through anything related to the five senses, which is also the domain of Taurus. So you could feel that something is building up for you. There is a crescendo arriving. There's something that still isn't over or still hasn't dissipated or gone away. And I feel like once we have this conjunction between Jupiter and Uranus, something is more evident and decided. And you could also feel that there's something around divine justice, divine grace. Jupiter is not only an exaggerator, but Jupiter is about our spiritual growth and our spiritual lessons. There also could be spiritual protection with the Jupiter influence. So something will certainly be decided and clear in April 2024. So just know that you still could be feeling these energies over the next few months. I realize it depends when you're listening to this podcast, but we're not out of the woods yet. Whatever this energy is for you, it's still playing out. So take good care of yourself in terms of stabilizing what you need, understanding that this is a big process and it could be working with you more personally depending on your chart. So if you have planets or points, especially between 18 to 22 degrees of Taurus, or the fixed signs, so 18 to 22 degrees of Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, or Aquarius, then these are bigger life changes for you. If you have planets or points between 18 to 22 degrees of the earth signs of Virgo and Capricorn, these could be welcome changes, what you're ready for, what you're looking for to help you move ahead or set you free in some capacity. And then if you have planets or points between 18 to 22 degrees of Cancer or Pisces, then this Uranus energy is helping you make those changes real, to get it out of simply a dream, a feeling, an imaginary experience, and bring it into your reality, to give it some real stability and look at how to build whatever is arising within you. Now, the other important development with Uranus stationing direct is that we now will have all planets direct until our next Mercury retrograde, which begins April 1st. So all planets will be direct January 26th, 27th until the beginning of April. And this is where you could really feel fired up and ready to go. There can be a lot more moving ahead, a lot of things connecting and clicking. There can be more support for what you're ready to get off the ground or move through. There could also be a sense of flow, of just being in that flow of things are more effortless and moving ahead. And you don't feel like you have to stop and overthink it or even spend too much time waiting, because the energy wants forward movement now. And we've been in this cycle for well over 10 or 12 years of having all planets direct for the first few months of each calendar year. And so there is a flow here, almost like this very supportive cycle that wants us to get something off the ground, to trust what is showing up and to go with it. And that could feel like a lot for you. It depends on your astrology chart, of course. There could be a sense of this is all happening too fast, or I'm not sure how to process all this. I need it to slow down. But there could also be an effortlessness here that we really need, that it's so clear that yes, it's time to move ahead, to allow things to transition and change into their next form. Now, after Jupiter and Uranus are conjunct, we're going to then see Uranus move ahead to 24 degrees of Taurus and enter into new territory. Uranus has not been at 24, 25, 26, 27 degrees of Taurus for 84 years and is in fact going to have a really beautiful minor grand trine in late 2024 with both Neptune and Pluto. And this is such a lovely outer planet aspect that it's almost like whatever you've been moving through, whatever has been testing you and pushing you, whatever has been too much, anything that the Uranus energies have stirred up for you, it's going to really coalesce and come together in a new clear form starting in September 2024, and it will last through October and even into November a bit. So I feel like it's going to make sense what the universe has been asking you to change, where you've needed to be more sovereign, more independent, more trusting of your energy in this lifetime. When we have 3 outer planets meet up through a minor grand trine, that's harmony. That's a beautiful understanding of a soul's journey, of the healing experience, of what you've been transitioning through in this lifetime. It is very rare, it's very special, and it's also an energy signature that brings about completion, that brings about a finalization, because it's happening at the ending degrees of the astrology signs. Now, I talk about this more in my 2024 Soul Growth Astrology program. So be sure and check that out, because that's where we go into these energies even more in your chart, all the main energies of 2024, but especially these unique aspects and the energies that are being communicated, the energies that are coming through for us to consciously claim, to consciously integrate. So basically, if we're looking at how these energies flow through and move through, and that doesn't mean calmly, that can mean with a lot of disruption, there is something that is going to be connecting for you September, October 2024. And yet there are some big changes and shifts still happening in April 2024. So this Uranus and Taurus is on its way to understanding what you needed to see that started back in July 2022. And again, you're looking at the Taurus areas of your natal chart to determine by house, the areas of life that have been turbulent for you, that have not been calm, steady, or peaceful, because you are rapidly evolving. This is the revolution. This is what you're here to see in yourself, to do it differently. There's something you're being pushed to break free from, to do it differently, to show up differently, to elevate your self-worth and your self-love, to know that you're worthy of something more. So what would you identify in your life that you've been struggling to claim, struggling or resistant, or kind of feeling like, whoa, that's too much, that's just crazy, I don't know how that could happen or how that could work, which is part of the Taurus perspective, the Taurus lens, is how. How would this happen? How can I build this? How can I go there? How can I create this next version of my life? Whatever it might be. And it is a bigger question, because the outer planets are connected with the bigger picture energies of our life. So this is something that's been pressing on you. It's been coming up. Again, maybe you felt it strongly at times and then it fades away and then it comes back around again. And what the universe is requiring us to do is to do something that could feel like a risk, to do something that could feel like it's ridiculous and wacky and wonky. And as I'm saying that, I'm now getting the visual of these tentacles, and they look like the Kraken. Like it has that monstrous energy. It looks kind of slimy and gross. And I'm looking at how the energy is moving, and it looks like these tentacles are connected to a previous timeline. It's connected to a previous version of consciousness, a previous version of self that doesn't want you to go, that doesn't want to let you go, that doesn't want you to strike out or do something different. It's sort of like the tentacles of the Kraken want you to stay in something, in a place, in a reality, in a level of consciousness, in a previous version of yourself. And that represents part of the Taurus need for certainty, because you know what the past is, or you know what a previous version of yourself is, or you know what has worked for you in a certain job or in a certain place, or whatever the case might be. And I feel like these tentacles are stretching into a previous timeline that you can feel you have either outgrown or you are outgrowing. And now I'm seeing that these tentacles, I mean, it could be like 8 of them, 10 of them, I don't know, but they represent certain parts of your self-identity, your self-concept, your world, your experiences, whatever it might be. And those are the energetics that are afraid to let you go, that are afraid of your own evolution, are afraid of the change. And so simply trust this. Of course, if it's not resonating with you, then don't make it fit. But it's almost like there's this crazy kraken and the tentacles are just grasping on for dear life and not giving up a fight. So there's a struggle. You could feel like you're struggling with parts of yourself. You could feel like you're going back and forth between, what about this? What about that? Again, a lot of energy is up in the air. It's unsettled. There are not clear answers, perhaps, or it could seem that it's just wildly impossible. And that's this energy that Uranus loves. Uranus loves the impossible. It's like, show me what's impossible and let's make it possible. Uranus loves that kind of challenge and the possibilities that come up with that because Uranus is so creative. So it's interesting because these tentacles, which I'm seeing as quite disgusting, are actually holding you back from a creative potential that maybe you're already feeling and sensing, but it's a creative potential with your own life force, And there's something that is coming up that you're meant to see as an internal struggle that you might think it's about one thing, but it's really about something else. So for example, you could think it's about money, but really it's about trusting that the universe will provide for you, trusting that you are an amazing manifester, an energetic creator of anything you want. So you could say, oh, it's about the money, but it's not about that. It's about more than that. It's about how you're trusting how loved and supported you are in the universe. And that could bring up stuff that you haven't faced before. That also feels like a big theme here. We're being required to face something we haven't felt or faced before around our self-love, our self-value, our worthiness. It's pushing us to the brinks. And it's interesting because those tentacles of the Kraken could almost feel like a comforting hug. Could be like, yeah, I'm good here. I want to stay with my cuddly Kraken because this is a known place. Almost like, oh, this is interesting. Being comfortable in the struggle. Being comfortable struggling, being comfortable resisting, being comfortable not moving. So that would be something to reflect on or think about. Is your energy comfortable in a struggle? Is it comfortable fighting a bigger force? Because what I'm feeling is that, again, the tentacles here of the Kraken are going to get more intense into April. And then it alleviates. And then that monster sinks back into the abyss. And wherever you're at is where you've arrived. Okay, this is interesting because this is not where I thought this podcast would go. But that's the energy that came up, is where are you so tied in to something that you also know you're outgrowing, or that you're resisting, or that you're afraid of? Because the fear can be really big, the fear of the unknown. And Uranus will bring that up. Uranus will bring up the sense of, I'm not ready. I don't have what I need. I'm not prepared. I didn't think this would happen. I didn't think this was the time. Like, that's part of the surprise element of Uranus, is that you actually feel blindsided. And you feel blindsided because something can happen suddenly or quickly. You're caught off guard and your energy has to adjust. But depending on how you run energy or how you're energetically made, your energy might not adjust quickly and you might need more time. And that could be also from a sense of safety, right? Like processing, giving yourself time, allowing yourself to go through something on your own timeline can be good for your nervous system, can be good for thinking things through and feeling like I'm in control of this. I've got a grip on this. I know what to do next. So this has been tough. Again, it depends on how you run energy and the energy of your chart, but there could be things coming up for you and you feel like it's all too fast. It's all too much. I can't do this. Then the universe doesn't let it go. And the universe is showing you more that you didn't see before. And then that can put up a stubborn resistance, which is Taurus. Okay. So there is so many dichotomies within this energy. There's a lot of contradictions. And that's what you could be feeling too. It's like, okay, if I do this, then what about that? Or if I choose D, what about R? And it just has a sense of always being in motion. Nothing is truly settled. And it's meant to stir you up. It's meant to stir up your frequency. It's meant to show you more that you would not have seen before. And it's also meant to connect you with some stronger, clearer values of what you want in your life and how you want to live your life. Now, Uranus will move into Gemini in 2026. So keep in mind, we do still have a few more years of Uranus stirring up the ground here in Taurus. But this is also where you're going to see things that ultimately set you free and that resonate with the core of your authentic frequency, the core of who you truly are, that you couldn't get to that unless you went through the turbulence, unless you got to snuggle up with the Kraken, unless you were able to have some deep pivotal life changes that brought about new understandings and new insights of what you are and what really matters to you in this life. So one more thing to offer is for you to look at, what do these tentacles represent? What is trying to keep me safe? What is trying to keep me stable? And go into the deeper messages or the deeper energy around that, where you might think it's one thing, but it's something else. And that is what will set you free. It's by facing that monster or that fear, facing that unknown, getting out of that comfort zone is exactly where you then will feel a power rising, a new claim to your sovereignty, and even perhaps some really powerful breakthroughs around energies you've had or you've carried across lifetimes. So Uranus stationing direct, yes, it is still stirring things up. It is still asking you to be very honest with yourself, be very authentic. Uranus doesn't accept anything that's fake, that's a mask, that isn't connected to your authentic frequency. And in fact, that's where you're going to feel a power rising and some very supportive breakthroughs. So I hope this has been helpful for what you may have been moving through or experiencing since the middle of 2022, as well as giving you some ways to plan ahead for how the energies will continue into 2024. As I mentioned, you can still check out the 2024 Soul Growth Astrology program, which includes all the eclipses of 2024. And we look at the energies of Pluto in Aquarius, Sedna in Gemini, the minor grand trine that I mentioned, plus the galactic grand trine that is unfolding in 2024, and so much more. So this is a program where you bring your natal chart and follow along as we discuss these transiting energies. This is not beginner astrology information. You need to have the basics down. You need to know the signs, the planets, the houses, and the aspects, and then you take the information that I present and you apply it to your natal chart so that you can see what 2024 has in store for you and what the major themes are in your life. So be sure and join me over there. And it's also a great place to not only reflect, but also to look at what's coming up in the year ahead and to ask questions. You can find all of my current courses at mollymccord.online, and I'll put a link below the podcast as well. I'll be back every Monday and Wednesday for a new podcast episode. Thank you so much for joining me. And here's to another big year of energy on our little planet. And I'm so grateful to be sharing it with you. Take good care, and I'll see you back here soon.